Oh,
There
that
we
was
go.
live.
We're live
Good
now.
evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy on FM 105.3, I think it is, in New Orleans. We just did this. For some reason, it didn't work. I'm sure you guys know that. But I'm Jenny Nicasio, along with my co-host, Sean Kelly, Jason Ian-Petro, and John Ventry. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Welcome
evening,
to Torture
everybody.
Tuesday,
Trust me, it's
where
torture.
we barely make
Yeah,
it here
everything,
by a thread due
nothing
to the
is working.
gremlins.
Look at my
I thought it
green.
was Taco Tuesday.
No,
Taco,
torture,
this
dude.
is Torture Tuesday
Torture
because
Tuesday.
every week there's always some event electronically that nothing works until the very last second. We get lucky.
Yep.
I think we should go back to using acetates.
I think we should just go back to using Skype.
Jay, do you know what an acetate is?
No.
That's when we used to create these clear slides, and you had an overhead projector, and you'd put each slide on it, and it would project it onto the screen. It basically use your printer and put clear slides in, and it prints on the slide, and then you'd project it on the screen. Acetates
I kind of remember something like that from science class
in the
Yeah.
70s.
like middle school.
Yeah.
I was going to
70s and
say, but
80s.
if you remember the creation of that, how old are you exactly?
I'm 65.
I just turned 60.
Oh,
Hey, Augie, how are you, buddy?
I'm surrounded by a bunch of gramps.
That's it. They're trying to get rid of us.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
Jody said he's going in now.
Okay, you want to go ahead and introduce him, John?
Okay, let me go back to the intro. All right, Jody, I met Jody a couple of times over in Ohio at some various conferences and haunted houses and something like that. But and I saw him last week on TV, so he's got to give us the background on that. But Joedy Cook, he's retired U.S. Army's and Iraq War veteran. He's probably the most active person especially in the dogman side of it. He does Bigfoot also, and he does a lot of his research in Ohio. Originally a member of the UFO group over in Cincinnati. Didn't really care for that too much and went to cryptozoology like a lot of people I know. It seems to be a lot more interesting, or maybe you get a little bit more trace evidence, But he's been doing Dogman and Bigfoot since '91. He's written a number of books, and I got to pick up a couple of his. He founded, and this is the important part, the North American Dogman Project. And you got to go to that website. I was on it the other day. He's got some pretty good graphs on there that he's going to talk about. And, he's produced his own DVDs and books with Wisconsin Werewolf, Germantown Werewolf, Beast of Land Between the Lakes, which is a location that it took place. And he's been on a number of TV shows, Monster Quest, Sightings and Encounters, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to talk about the show he was on last week. He's in Cincinnati. And like I said, I've met Jody a couple of times. And I got to get him out here to the Pittsburgh conference. We've kind of hooked up a few times and it didn't work out. But we got to get him booked for that conference now that he's a star. So, Jody, you out there? You out there? He said he's in backstage right
Welcome
now.
to Chasing Prophecy, Jody.
Hey, welcome
hey,
to Torture
Jody,
Tuesday.
welcome, buddy.
Yeah, there
How
he
you
is.
doing?
So there you go. Good.
Alright.
Thanks for being on, Jody.
Yeah,
So
no,
tell
no
us
problem.
tell us a little bit about that show last week. Like, how'd they contact you, and how did that whole process work?
They were on our website and they were wanting to do a show on the Dogman phenomenon. So they went ahead and was Googling a bunch of stuff. They ran across our site, contacted us. Now this was filmed. Oh God, I'm trying to think. A year, maybe 2 years ago, because of,
What?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was
Wow.
not this past October, but let's see, I guess the October past that.
Was
Wow.
it delayed because of COVID? Were there COVID delays involved and all
Yeah,
of
there
that?
was COVID delays, and they were deciding if they were even going to do another season for the show and so
Okay.
forth. So they contacted me, made the arrangements to go out there. They were supposed to be out in that field at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And so I sat there from like 2:30 in the afternoon till 10:30 waiting for them to show up.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So what I would, the whole time, so I decided I'm gonna go do a little bit of looking around in the woods there. I got chased by a wild pig.
Oh my god.
Wild bacon.
Yeah. Got in my car. This thing was like going around my car, biting on it and stuff. And finally it
That's
left.
crazy.
Yeah. So, and then I went back out, and what was kind of interesting about that show is they didn't show the real evidence. There was evidence that was found there. Because when I was there earlier that day, this huge branch came flying over at me, and I heard a growl. So I turned over to my right, and I saw this large, hairy object just like hit the ground. I mean, he like went down. And so I had my camera with me. So I took a picture of the location, and I can see it kind of moving a little bit. So I'm, taking a bunch of other pictures. So I got some really good pictures of this thing laying there. It has a snout. You can see, the head and the face real perfect. And at one point, it's looking through some sticks, and you got the really good picture of the face with the eyes, and it looks like it's holding its mouth, hand over its mouth like that. So I gave them those pictures. I said, I took them to a location to verify, that these weren't prior pictures or anything. And they didn't even show that. I mean, this was like these were some of the best pictures of this thing. And the thing of it is, it was in October, so everything was like a dull gray. And in the pictures, you can see this large black object, right there. So by the time they got there, that whole segment was maybe filmed like an hour and a half. And they kind of made it feel like it was like 4 or 5 hours out in the field. I mean, they didn't even want me to turn the trail camera on. It's just one of these things they wanted to get in there and get out real quick.
Well, I've noticed with that show, and I've only watched it a few times with her. What's her name? The host, the redheaded girl. What's her name? Do you remember?
I can't
Margaret
remember.
Something. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but I noticed that they never actually. They're almost like more trying to disprove every case, like Project Blue Book. And I've only watched it a few times, and it's like everyone, when it gets, they lead you along with some breadcrumbs, and then it gets to the end and says, "Oh, this had to be a mangy bear,"
Or how about the ones where they pick hair off of tree branch, and they tell you at the beginning of the show, and then, well, it could be a Bigfoot, or else it could be an animal. You know what I mean?
Sean caught out in the woods.
Oh my God!
Well, it wasn't me. They didn't get any of my hair. I could tell you.
The thing of it is, I gave them hair, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to have a DNA tested." So they came back and said, "You know what? It came back of an unknown species of canine."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Good. Can you get the documentation on that?" And they said, "Well, we're trying." And then, the cast, they go, we kind of talked to a taxidermist. And I'm like, why would you go to a taxidermist? He wouldn't know. I mean, yeah, obviously he knows animals, but he's not qualified on the track. You have to take it to a wolf specialist or, a biologist or something like that to, not a taxidermist. So the taxidermist says all he thinks it's a bear. And the cast was made in Ohio, and they said it was made in Kentucky, which was, which was a lie. But then I found out from the show, this whole time I'm thinking that the hair went through DNA laboratory, and it was identified by a taxidermist as a possible canine hair. And then they sent the cast back to me, broken in 3 places, and they took the hair. I had it in a brown paper bag, and they sent the hair back in a sandwich baggie, which contaminated.
Oh my God!
And I was really angry.
It shows how they don't understand the way to move evidence. and we use the paper bags because there's no other contamination in it. But
Mhm.
they sent it in a Glad bag. Was it a bag already used, like she had a lunch in it? And then no.
To me, honestly,
Just got done eating your
that's what it looked
sandwich.
like. It was a regular sandwich bag, and and it's just, I mean, the one thing we talked about there on the show was you have to put the hair, excuse me, or any type of DNA in a brown paper bag. That's what
Right.
law enforcement does.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't put anything in plastic because it's petroleum and it would contaminate it.
Yeah.
And what do? They send the remaining amount of the hair back in the sandwich bag with the cast broken in 3 spots. And finally they admitted, yeah, we broke it. We tried to super glue it together, and
I would have been livid.
I was livid.
Oh,
was
I
my
tell you what,
God.
super glue saved my boot last weekend.
We used to use, and you're probably familiar with this, Jody, lead, paint cans, not used paint cans, because they got like that lead lining in it, and you could put trace evidence in those, and those are pretty good to use too. But the paper bags is what's recommended. But what she said, is it true when she said the hair didn't have cuticles or follicles, whatever was on the end, and they couldn't tell what type of animal or what it was from? Is that true or not? Or
No, that's not true, because
I didn't think so when I heard her say that.
Samples tested, without the cuticles. I mean, you don't have to have the cuticles, to do that. I have a chunk of hair, and this is another thing, and this is where you got to watch when you give stuff to TV shows. We did, trying to think what TV show called Encounters that was on SyFy channel, and this was back in like 1993, 94, and we had a chunk of hair that had the skin still on it. Wow. And how we got that was we were out in an area in Adams County doing an investigation, and there was a guy there said, listen, over this road over here, there's a Quaker minister that had a Bigfoot encounter yesterday. And he was telling me about it. You might want to go talk to him. So we went over and talked to him. And he goes, yeah, I'm on my tractor. And he said, there's a Bigfoot standing inside the fence line where I was. And he was watching me as I was getting closer on my tractor. And then it went over the fence. And it walked away. So he got off off his tractor and tried to walk over to see it. And he found a chunk of skin and hair that was on the fence, and he just kind of left it there. So he took us over and showed us. So we got the hair, a couple strands of hair, and a big piece of bloody chunk. So we were getting ready to do our first book with Chris Murphy. I don't know if you're familiar with him. A big
who's Chris Murphy?
Yeah, he's a really big Canadian Bigfoot researcher. He has a Bigfoot museum. They used to travel around and stuff. So we gave it to him to get tested. And he wrote this book called, I can't remember. It was just something dealing with Bigfoot evidence. And he had like a lot of different researchers in there, including myself. And he gave the hair to Dr. Fehrenbach, which was a biologist / all this other stuff. And he took the hair and took credit that it was his.
Oh.
And it came back with an unknown species of primate. So that was physical evidence. And he never gave it back to us, and it's this, you're going to take our hair and take credit for it in a book. It was just ridiculous. And I was like, I swear to God, I would never, ever turn over any evidence over to a TV place again. And, I thought, well, maybe this was a little bit different where, in the 2000s, things are different. People are more open to this stuff than they were, 20 years ago. But no, they're the same. They'll take it and destroy it, or
it's a shame.
It is.
They really don't know what they're doing. They really don't.
No, they don't. Hey, no. Jody, we go investigating at a place called Prospect Place. Have you heard of it in Ohio? Trimway, Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay. We heard that there is some Bigfoot sightings down around that area. Is that true?
Yeah, they've been 6 or 7 that I know of within the last few years in that area. But Ohio's a very big populated area with a lot of Bigfoot sightings. I think Ohio's ranked probably 4 right now with the amount of sightings that's taking place across the country. So yeah, there's a lot. Um, right along the Pennsylvania border and going down a little bit further to like the West Virginia border, that seems to be the biggest hot spot of Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
Along that area right there.
Well, John, isn't the Allegheny Mountains that around that area?
Yeah.
What mountains are down there?
Yeah, the Alleghenies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just had a friend, I posted a question on Facebook saying, do you believe, what do you believe in, Bigfoot or aliens? And a friend of mine said that she has a cabin up in the Allegheny Mountains, and she said they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jody, let me ask you, well, a couple of questions though. I always thought Bigfoot was a separate creature from a werewolf. That, or at least it started out that they were two separate entities.
Right.
Bigfoot, excuse me, Dogman. That Dogman and a werewolf are two separate entities. The Dogman
Correct.
was basically a human being with a dog head, and a werewolf is, a werewolf that can stand on 2 legs and all of that, So tell us a little bit about the history of Dogman and werewolves. And today it seems like everybody calls a werewolf a Dogman, but I don't think
Right.
that's the right terminology.
When people think of werewolves, they think of
Lon
one
Chaney.
organism,
Yeah.
Transferring into a second organism. Okay, which is totally impossible. It's your old Lon Chaney movies and Dog Soldiers, and
That was a good movie. That was
yeah,
a good
real
movie.
good movie. It's that kind of thing what people believe when they think of werewolves. Here in the States, we call it Dogman, and it's basically the same thing. It's just we give it the name Dogman. The Canadians still call it werewolves. The Europeans still call it a werewolf.
Yeah.
So
That original Dogman, though, I looked it up, dates back to 400 BC in India. They were the first one to talk about a human person with a dog face and head. And then you think about the Egyptians, they had those gods of theirs, Anubis,
yeah.
the jackal head, and then you had bird heads and all of that. So probably that's where that stuff originates from, is BC.
Well, India has a very big history of a dog-headed man.
Yeah.
Okay. We still get reports from India. We actually have a chapter that's in India, and it's a group of Indian soldiers they're members, and they're telling us that these things they've killed their soldiers on the border. They've killed the Chinese soldiers on the border. The Chinese thinks it's the Indians. The Indians are thinking it's the Chinese that's doing it, but these bodies are being mutilated. Both sides are seeing them, but they're not going to say it's a werewolf. They're going to obviously blame it on the other side, but no tension is going to take place over it because both sides know what's going on.
There were a couple of cases right there on that border of India and Pakistan where the Indian people from India believed that they were Pakistani soldiers dressed up as wolves, but committing terrorist acts, killing 30 people at a time, 20 people at a time, and pretending it's a dogman or a werewolf. But they think it was actually acts of terrorism in a few cases.
Well, the thing of it is they're very superstitious culture, and they see things different, obviously, than we do. But to them, this is something that's real,
right?
Where they can sit there and think that these are actual, living organisms that's doing acts of terror. Well, here in the United States, there's a lot of people that believe that Dogman is some type of biological weapon that
Could
was
be.
created. And we got one really good report from this couple that was going to point A, or from point A to point B, and they went off the road. Their GPS took them off a different road, and they're going down this road, and they go up a hill, and then they see U.S. soldiers standing there, and then they're like, okay, we're in the wrong area, so we're getting ready to turn around, and then they see a group of what they said were werewolves wearing U.S. military clothing
Huh?
with gear.
Hmm,
And he
that
said
would
be
these
awesome.
things were about 7 feet, and they said they were like like dog heads. I mean, they're like typical werewolves. And they said the one soldier told them to go attack the car, so they went after the car and they got out. They got out of the area, but they reported this is what happened to us. So we do get reports where these things are either like in an extraterrestrial environment
Right.
or some type of biological weapon environment. We do get a lot of reports like
You
that.
think they're trying to create like a super soldier? You think about it. When you look at Scandinavian legends, their gods could
Mhm.
always transform into creatures. Like if they had to go 10 miles, they turn into a wolf and run, or a
Right.
bird and fly, and then they come back. But not that I'm not saying that we could do that with our military, but do you think that they're trying to create like a super soldier? Obviously, you can't fight a werewolf, with its strength and speed and claws and bite. I mean, that would be kind of a super soldier for hand to hand.
Right. Well, I remember back in 1988, the head of Boeing on camera said everything that exists in Star Wars and Star Trek
Yeah.
exists today. Okay. So if all that stuff really does exist, then they'll have the technology where they can weaponize,
Yeah.
an organism to be a weapon. But my problem is I don't see Dogman as a biological weapon.
Yeah. It'd be a
Okay?
little awkward. You can't
Right.
shoot.
Now, what I think is what the possibility is, I think there's a big extraterrestrial background to that. Okay.
Okay.
And let me kind of explain this a little bit. Okay. And it's going to go into a couple of different sections here. Now, I met a guy who was former military. And if you're in the military, you talking to other people, they were military because the way they talk, the way they say things, and so forth. This guy told me that his job today was part of a black project that goes and recovers UFOs. He was former special forces, and the people that are in this group were former special forces, Navy SEALs, combat air controllers from the Air Force, things like that. Okay. And he said they had to go down to South America to deal with an alien species that the United States is dealing with and just got in contact with in the 1970s. It's one of these species, he says, that we don't know a whole lot about them because we haven't seen a whole lot of them within a period of years. Well, the first time the United States got in contact with this alien species was in the early 70s. Now, this alien species is a canine species that is a hunter, kind of like your predator, from the Predator movies.
Ooh.
They wear like a body armor, suit, no helmet, no gloves, no feet. And they basically hunt. Okay. And the U.S. government got in contact with this first group in the early 70s. So they end up getting in contact with another group that crashed again. And these were survivors. The first ones from the 70s never survived. This group did. So they were so dangerous, they would not keep them in the United States. They kept them in a facility in Honduras. So what happened was, he said that they were able to get out of the facility, take over the facility, get out, and they end up going into some small village and killing everybody in the village. So these things are like hiding out into the jungle. So they had to go out and take care of them. they end up killing them. Now, one of the things he said is that we have special weapons that are designed to deal with species of alien because modern technology just can't do it. So, and I said, okay, these weapons, I mean, is this something we got or is this something we got through other aliens? He said, yeah, these technologies we get through other aliens, and some we created on our own. So they end up killing this this group of dog-headed aliens. So he said the one thing is they had this horrible scream when they were killed, but he said they're extremely intelligent, but they had like zero common sense. Was the best way he
Sounds like a
explained
lot of
it.
people I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
So, but he said the one weapon that they had was like a sword that he said that was similar to what you call a pharaoh's sword. And if you ever seen the movie Scorpion King with The Rock, that sword, that's a pharaoh sword. He said that's the kind of sword that these guys were carrying.
I have one of those in my hallway hanging up. The
Yeah.
one from I have it from Scorpion King.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they're neat looking swords.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I remember talking to Linda Godfrey about a year later, telling her that story. And she goes, Joedy, I had the same story told to me by a different serviceman.
Yeah.
So that kind of validates the story. Now, getting back to that, we all seen Star Wars in 1978 when it came out. All right, there's a barroom scene. There's two werewolves in a barroom scene. Okay, now Mr. Baker was the gentleman that created majority of the costumes.
Rick Baker.
Huh?
Rick Baker.
Yeah, for the show, and I emailed him asking him a question about those particular things. I asked him, were those masks that were thrown in there just to have additional pieces, or was that mask told you need to design this mask? And he said that George Lucas wanted those masks designed in that fashion. Okay. So that kind of made my curiosity run a little bit. So I was doing a lot of research on George Lucas and things like that. Well, George Lucas was a Mason, okay? And he had a lot of friends that worked for NASA. Now, in the 1970s, in NASA, if you weren't a Mason, you weren't getting in certain positions at NASA, okay? A lot of people at NASA were Masons. So he was able to see a lot of stuff that a lot of other people in NASA who had security clearance were not able to see. Okay, so with that scene with the werewolves, what makes it so interesting? I think it was like a year or two after Star Wars came out, and I think it was right coming in to where Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back, rather. They did a book about the characters of Star Wars. And in that book, there is a werewolf that's wearing the same exact style body armor, where no helmet, no gloves, no feet, holding a weapon. And he was part of the resistance, which I thought was kind of interesting. So would George Lucas had some type of information about a canine species of alien, and that's why he put it in the movie? And was it put into that book the same exact description that everybody talked about? It's kind of interesting.
You know,
Yeah,
the similarities there are what I find interesting, because you have the same type of stories in the UFO field, you know, with Dulce and the aliens underground, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Spielberg, you know, had certain information and he had to put certain things in that movie that were true. And Reagan said that is the truth, what you see there. But it's interesting to hear the same type of stories in a different genre, you know?
Right.
Joedy, For our listeners out there now, the people in MUFON, whenever they get a UFO sighting, they send people out to investigate it. Now, where you're at, and say like there was one, we'll say in Iowa, would you go and check it out, or is that how,
No,
does your
our organization is we have about 700 members worldwide.
Wow.
So, and we're broken down into 5 different regions, and within those regions you have state reps, and then you have a regional director. Okay. So when a report comes in, it depends on how old the report is. If it's a Class A report, Class B, or Class C, depends on someone going out to the field. Okay. Most of the time we send people out anyhow, because it's kind of like UFOs. If they're there once, they're going to be there again.
So how do you rank them Class A, B, and C?
Yeah.
Like what's the...
a Class A, we consider like Class A sighting something that has happened within a 72-hour period. Okay. A Class B is something that has happened, say, within a week to 2 weeks. And a Class 3 is something that could have been from 6 months to a year.
Okay.
So
and the UFO field has the valet classification system, which is kind of similar, you know, in a lot of ways. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting to hear the similarities between the genres.
Yeah. So that's how we do it. So we'll contact the region contact, the regional director will contact the state rep that's in that area. The state rep will contact the field researchers. The field researchers go out. So what we do, there's 6 forms that each researcher has to fill out before they hit the field. And basically what these are is basically protecting the organization and protecting themselves if something happens. Okay, regardless if it's an accident or non-accident, it's just you kind of protect it. So they'll go out, they'll interview the witness, they'll go out to the area, do an investigation. They'll draw a little map of the area where the sighting took place, the distance, things like that, and they'll try and get it the eyewitness to draw a description of what they saw. And then,
do you do background checks on the investigators? Do you do any sort of criminal background checks?
No, we don't, because it's expensive to do.
Yeah,
you know, very expensive to do. We go more on an honor system, you know, with the people that come in, because we really haven't, honestly, since 2016, we really hadn't had any issues with any of our researchers doing something that they weren't supposed to do or got themselves in trouble.
That's good.
You know, these people are very dedicated people. They want to find the truth, and they're very professional, you know, about it. You know, we have an ID card that they use. We have a very good sized field manual, almost about the size of MUFON's field manual that we go through, and all the researchers have that. They have a research kit they take out into the field with them. It has everything in that they need. Some researchers have a bio kit, just in case there's some type of physical evidence and so forth. So yeah, we try to stay as professional as we can.
And you're the director of this organization?
What's that?
Are you the director of this organization?
Myself and Dave Jones are the founders of the organization.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the top guys.
Good, that's good. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's very good.
So what kind of equipment do you guys use when you go out to investigate? You were talking about having the kits and then a bio kit. Like what comes what's like a standard? You have this, and this for when you go out in the field.
For example, the kit they'll take out. They'll take plaster. They'll have paper bags to collect evidence with, water for the plaster, something to measure the prints with, a camera to sit there and take pictures of the area. They'll have a journal where they can sit there and write all the information in. They'll have all their field reports in there that they need. What other type of items they want to take out to the field that they feel is necessary for them to do their investigation. The bio kit, not everybody has it, just a few people have it, and I don't encourage people not to have it, but if there's a possibility that a body is found, okay, we want them to be able to collect what evidence they can. And one of the things we talk about in our manual is, okay, if you find a body, okay, of one, do not under any circumstances remove the body or damage the body by cutting off the head, the arms, or something like that. Okay. You don't want to do that. What most people don't understand is every single piece of dirt in this country is either owned by the city, county, state, or federal government. Okay.
Right.
You could walk into your local city park, pick flowers, and you can be arrested for criminal damaging and theft. A lot of people don't realize that if they wanted to push it. So if you remove a body from, a county park or a state park or federal park, you could be arrested.
Would you try to collect as much evidence as you could and then call the police because there's a body laying there? Samples, though.
Here's the thing. This is what we say. Collect as much information as you can. Take hair samples from different parts of the body. If you can swab the mouth, swab the mouth. Some people, like in my bio kit, I have syringes and I have the little blood tubes and so forth. If you can pull blood samples, pull blood samples. Take paper with you with the ink pad, for the old stamps and stuff, and take the ink and rub it on the palm, on the foot, get copies of the, the bottom of the paw and so forth. So you have, some type of identification marks on there. If you're going to pull any type of DNA, pull a tooth. Tooth keeps a lot of DNA. That way you're not really, damaging the body or doing something, that you should be.
Let me ask you this, Joedy. Aren't you afraid if you did get to a body and do all this?
Well,
how do you know it's not diseased?
Well, see, that's the thing. You have, you wear gloves, you wear a mask, you wear eye protection. Like I'll have, like in my kit, I've got a white coverall, like paint style suit that I wear, along with a like a painter's respiratory mask and so forth with glasses. And so I try to would protect myself the best I could. But that's up to the other researcher if they want to do all that. We suggest that this is what you do because you don't know what you're dealing with diseases and so forth. So that's why you have to be careful. And that's why I say, especially when you start, if you do try to get blood, or if you do try to swab the mouth, or even try and remove a tooth or something to that effect, I mean, you're still dealing with a body fluid that can be dangerous. Mm-hmm. So, because the thing, what you don't want to do is find a body and call the police. Okay. The police aren't going to know what to do. That's why I tell, just take hundreds of pictures of it, get all the hair samples you can, everything you can. And then what you do, you get a couple of your other teammates to sit out into the field with a camera. You contact the DNR is the one you need to contact. You bring the DNR in and show them the body. That way, you're filming you bringing the DNR in and showing them the body. That's why the DNR can't say they didn't have it, because you have guys sitting in the field with cameras filming it. So you got it documented, because either way you go, once that body is removed by the authorities, it no longer exists. And actually, that particular case or scenario actually happened 2 years ago in Akron. Okay. Oh. Yeah, very interesting case. We had a woman contact us and said, I was driving down this road in Akron. Okay. I see a police car off to the left of me. Okay. There's a divider there. It was 4 lanes. There was a divider. And she said there was something large laying behind the police car. And the police officer was kneeling down, looking at it. So she goes, I drove by real slow. This police officer had his hand over his mouth. She said there was this huge wolf-like creature laying there about 7 or 8 feet tall, just lengthwise.
Wow.
And she goes, I had the perfect look at this thing. She said the front paws look like human hands.
Oh,
So
wow.
she calls her friend who's leaving for work, who's coming the opposite way. He says, you need to stop your car and see if you can see what's going on. Well, when we talked to him, what he said, as he's coming down, there's already police officers, the road's already blocked, police officers are there, the DNR's there with a pickup truck, and an ambulance is there. And he said they picked this thing up, put it on a gurney. The head was laying over the gurney along with the feet, and they had to cover it up because it was much larger than the gurney. And they put it into an ambulance. So he got the name of the ambulance, tried to find the company. The company didn't even exist.
Wow.
So, and here's my thing. Why would they? Well, let me jump back here a minute. So there was a news reporter that was on her way there, and she saw everything, and she went and talked about it on like the 12 o'clock afternoon news. And in the meantime, she contacted the police, and the police said, well, you need to call the DNR. She talked to the DNR. The DNR said, well, yeah, it was a bear that got hit by a car. Here's a picture of it. And for your newscast. Well, the picture they sent was a black bear laying on a dirt road with a cone next to it with these real bright tags in its ears. And the girl said, who saw it up close, said it did not have tags in its ears at all. And the road was paved. And the picture they sent was just a black bear that was shot laying on a tarp on the dirt road. So it was a false picture. So no information. Even the news reporter said when we talked to her that she even tried to look into the ambulance company and couldn't find anything about it because she wanted to know why they would take a dead animal, put it on a gurney, and put it in a ambulance, a sterile ambulance, when the DNR had a pickup truck there and did not put it in the back of the DNR truck.
Yeah, I mean they pick up deer and they throw it in the back of a pickup truck. They don't put deer in ambulance. It sounds familiar to a famous UFO case in Bahia, Brazil, where these kids, you're familiar with it, stoned this creature to death, and they believe it was an alien. But the EMS showed up, and when they picked the one guy, and I have his name, I don't remember, picked him up, put it on the gurney, and they took it to the hospital. He died. He ended up in the hospital. There's pictures of him on intravenous and everything. He died like within a week because something on that creature was toxic to him.
Right.
So I have you were talking about when you if you stumble across the body, while you're investigating. Now, what is the plan if you stumble across the body and it's actually still alive, like maybe like severely injured or just barely alive, but it's still alive? Like, what is there like a certain?
Yeah, the policy on that is if you run across one that's injured and still alive, stay away from it. Okay, if you're able to get video of it, get video evidence of it. But I would want them to contact the DNR because the animal is wounded. Okay, we are a non-kill organization. Okay, we do not believe in finding this thing and killing it to prove that it exists.
Right.
It's an animal. If it's wounded, hurt, it deserves protection. It deserves to be taken care of, regardless if it's an apex predator. Okay, and we encourage that if one is found wounded, take evidence, pictures, video, whatever you can. Don't go near it, but report it to the DNR. Do not call law enforcement. Law enforcement's going to kill it right on the spot there.
Why do you think law enforcement wants to kill it?
They would kill it for the simple fact is, you know,
if they think it can injure a person, they will kill it.
Yeah,
and that's the whole.
How many times have police officers killed dogs?
Dogs, yeah.
Okay,
or
so
gets hit, and...
you know, they're going to look at it as, you know, it's a dangerous animal, it's a monster or something, so they're going to kill it. The DNR, they would handle it, I think, a little bit more different because the DNR is more familiar with cryptids than law enforcement is. So they would most likely tranquilize it, fix it up, and do whatever they do with them.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Now, does the DNR have more authority over the police?
When it comes to animals, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the DNR, all DNRs are police officers, regardless what state they are. Okay. They have more authority if it's state property. Really, if it's even federal property, they have, you know, deputized authority with that. So yeah, any type of animal or any type of state property, they have full authority over. So, you know, that's why we encourage our people to do this. Most of the time, you know, our people are not going to hurt the animal. If anything, they're going to do what they can to try to help it, and that's a no-go. Because you can get hurt, you can get yourself killed. When an animal is injured, he's more dangerous than, you know, being not injured.
Now, what's the truth and the mythology? So you come across a werewolf, and it's not dead, and it bites you. Do you turn into a werewolf? Because you know, there's Hollywood. You're bitten.
Yeah, you turn into
there's
a werewolf.
A full moon. You know. So what's the story there? How do you become a werewolf? And can a bite?
Okay, real quick, John. We have a comment in our section. Holly McElvery wants to. What does DNR stand for?
Oh, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, which is. I'm sorry.
No, I said, is that okay, Holly?
Yeah, Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah. So what's the story with getting bit? Are you just liable to get rabies, or
no?
What's the story?
See that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get bit by Dogman and you survive, you're lucky. You know, you'll probably, you know, you have to understand it's an animal, so it could carry rabies. It could carry any type of germ or bacteria in its saliva that could be deadly, that even can possibly be hallucination, you know, for someone because of how dangerous, you know, the bacteria is.
Yeah.
But I know you're not going to turn into a werewolf or a wolf man or anything like that. I mean, that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Michigan Dogman?
Yeah, very, very familiar with that. There's a film called Gable Film, if you're familiar with that.
I was doing a little bit of research earlier, and I stumbled across. I didn't get a chance to really.
Yeah, so a lot of researchers believe that the Gable film is legitimate up until the part where this thing attacks the cameraman and this mouth comes up. Now, there's a guy that came forward. I can't think of his name. When Monster Quest did a show, and he says, "Yeah, I'm the guy in the ghillie suit," and he couldn't even reenact the whole situation. He couldn't even take Monster Quest to the exact location he filmed it at. So what people believe is that this guy is basically a con artist. That, I mean, he has a fascination with very old antique vehicles, cameras, things like that. And he was able to get a hold of a copy of the Gable film, and he just threw it in with this bunch of crap that he did, and he's taking credit for it. And he got his 15 minutes of fame from it. But experts who on biochem, I can't think of the right word, biomechanics of humans and animals,
yeah,
said that there's no way a human can move the way that animal did in that video.
I
Did
will
you?
definitely have to check this out.
I saw a picture out there from 1961 of supposedly a dogman or a werewolf. Did you ever see that picture? He's kind of like behind a log or something, and they said it's not authenticated, but it's one of the few actual photos of a dogman or a werewolf. Did you ever come across that? It was in Michigan, 1961. I
There,
mean, to me, it
that's
looks
the
like a
one where
wolf.
it's standing up in the field.
Oh, it's not in the field. It's kind of standing up, but it's like it's got a piece of a tree or something in front of it, and the pour is kind of over it. And you know, of course, it's not in focus and it's at night. I was just curious if you ever seen that, you know.
I have to see that one. I don't remember seeing that one. I know there's one that came in the 1970s, I believe it was, or early 1980s, that a nurse from Ohio took the picture. It said it was a Michigan dog man. It looks more like a bear because the legs are really short where it's standing up. But the one that you're saying, I probably seen it, but if I could see it again, I'll
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
have more understanding about it.
Okay. So
But
what's
when it
the
comes to Michigan dog man, there just isn't a whole lot of information out there about it, and actual type of evidence like photographs or anything like that. There's just not a whole lot. The Beast of Bray Road, there's a lot more stuff dealing with that than actually the Michigan Dogman. And he's more famous than the Beast of Bray Road because he was one of the first cases.
Ah. So if I decided to go camping in Ohio, what signs would I look for, or what do I need to be aware of, knowing that the dog man could be around me?
Well, it's not just Ohio; it's all over the place. I'll give you the perfect example. You're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There's a place called Shenango Valley.
I know where it's at. Yeah.
A lot of dogman activity there. And there's a case that of the Wolf Boy, if you're familiar with that came out of Shenango Valley, where they quite a few people were seeing a small little boy that's like a wolf man is the best way to describe it. But there's also has had a lot of dogman encounters in there, and I got quite a few newspaper articles from Pennsylvania about the dog boy and the dogman sightings that took place in Shenango Valley. So that would be your best place to go for you. But if the thing about dogmen is when you talk about signs or evidence, what to look for, tracks would be obviously one of the biggest things. I mean, it's going to have a canine style track, but you're going to have to be familiar with the animals in that area. Pennsylvania has wolves. They have Canadian red wolves that's been seen inside of Pennsylvania. Well, a Canadian red wolf gets about 110, 120 pounds. It can get up to that big. So a normal track for a Canadian red wolf, about 100 pounds, 110 pounds, is going to be anywhere from 4.5 to 5 inches, depending on the weight of the dog. Okay. So if you find a track obviously bigger than that, then that gives you some indication there's a dogman in the area. Now, one thing that we're finding out is a lot of scratch marks that are on trees and bite marks. And we have quite a few pictures of that where it will take a frontal bite out of the tree.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we've actually seen, or actually had one report where one guy actually saw it take place, where it was going from tree to tree, taking like a bite out of the tree as a marking along with the claw marks. So we have a lot of pictures from different parts of the country where these claw marks on trees. Now, the difference between the dogman claw marks on trees and the bear claw marks on trees is that bears normally only mark the tree up to 3 times. He's not going to sit there and keep marking the tree. he'll do one scratch on the tree, possibly two, and maybe up onto a third one. Now, what we're finding, and he won't go back to that tree. Now, I was kind of curious about this because I talked to the U.S. Forestry Service about this, and they said normally when a bear marks a tree, he'll mark the tree one time, maybe twice, before he goes and marks another tree. Because once he marks that tree, his scent's on that tree, and another bear is not going to mark it. Now, this is coming from the U.S. Forestry Service, okay? Their authority on this. But we're finding trees that has multiple scratch marks going from the trunk, going all the way up to about 7 to 8 feet, completely all around the tree. That's unusual for bears. Okay, so that's another indication you might want to look at when you're out in the field.
Well, I got to stop you for a minute because I want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the second hour of our show. Thank you, Carnation. Okay, good. Continue.
Thanks, Sean. That was lovely.
So Joedy, how does somebody become a werewolf dog man? You know, when the research I did, it's almost like a demonic ritual. You're cursed by the gods. There's a witch and a spell and a salve involved. You know, or you drink from a wolf's paw print. You know, it's almost this occult thing to become one. Where do you think they come from, and how does somebody? You know, is it a human turning, or is this just a different species?
It's a species of itself. Okay, it's a biological entity. Okay, meaning that it is a species of canine that we know of. It is capable going on all fours. It is still capable going on two legs. But the characteristics of the animal is a little bit different from your domestic wolf. Indications from reports and sightings that the arms and the hands are very more human. The legs are still more canine. The genitals are very human looking. The body is more of a massive chest with a very thin waist. So if you go back and you look at history, documented history of a dogman type creature, the oldest report we have, newspaper article, was about the 1800s. Okay, so that is completely it when it comes to any type of documentation of a type of creature in some type of history. And from like the 1800s going up, then you have, you know, like you said, quite a few reports. But when you look and talk to Native American cultures about the dog man, you're dealing into something more supernatural.
Yeah.
When you talk with Native Americans, you have the skinwalker. They have the man that walks like a dog, the man that looks like a dog, depending on what tribe it is. Now, in my area, we've had the Cherokee and the Shawnee. Okay, the Cherokee oral history when it comes to dogman is still considered the same as like the Navajo skinwalker. The Shawnee is kind of different. They have a creature that is, I'm trying to think the best way they say it. They look at Bigfoot as the big blue giant. Okay, it's how they consider what they talk about Bigfoot. But when it comes to dogman, it still falls into the characteristics of the man that walks, or the dog that walks like a man. Okay. Now, the Shawnee, they have representations of Bigfoot, and they have representation of the man, the dog that walks like a man. But they will not show it to anyone, any of the white culture, because they believe the white culture is evil. It will bring out the evil of the creature if it's seen. Now, here in Ohio, we have a museum, a Native American museum called Fort Ancient. I'm sorry.
Where's it at?
Fort Ancient Oh God, where's that at? I know it's like an hour north of Cincinnati. I can't remember the name of the location where it's at, but it's called Fort Ancient. But they have a battle axe inside that museum that the Shawnee used to fight these animals with.
Hmm.
So there is some type of oral history and physical evidence from that tribe that they dealt with these animals. And they actually fought for territory, they fought them for food and so forth. So we know Native American culture that these things do exist. But like you said, from the 1800s up or 1800s going down, there's really not much history in European history compared to Native American history.
Yeah, I mean, 1857 is where it's pretty much documented in the U.S. Are you familiar with Michigan with the witchy wolves? That's a Chippewa legend of the spirit dogs that guard graves, and
Yeah,
people.
what's interesting about that and that story where we deal with how can I say this and this supernatural realm, the say the hellhounds, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like the same thing. The hellhounds stayed in cemeteries to protect the souls from the demons
Right.
being stole. That is the same thing that you're talking about, but that is in the Native American culture. So how we got it in our culture, I believe it somehow it crossed over from Native American culture to our type of history when it comes to the hellhound. But the problem with that is that it's the same history that's in Europe, going back, 1,000 years. And if you went back 1,000 years in Europe, it would never crossed over with Native American history. So the how can different groups of people in different parts of the country and 1,000 years ago able to have the same type of
Unless the
legend?
Vikings actually came over, and I think they did, because
Right.
Roslyn Chapel in the 1300s, it has on the woodwork corn, maize, but yet we didn't go to the United States until 1492. But yet 200 years earlier, this
Right.
Roslyn Chapel in Scotland has corn.
Let me throw this at you. I seen something the other day that made a lot of sense where you look at Egyptian culture at the time of the pharaohs and so forth, where it's showed that this person made perfect sense. He said that Egyptian, I'm trying to think the right word, culture was in the United States before it was in Egypt. Okay, and how he proved it was very interesting. He's talked about Egyptian artifacts that were found in Grand Canyon that date back further back than ancient Egypt itself. The dog that they picture like with Anubis and so forth, that particular type of canine is only found in Mexico.
Hmm.
The eagle or the vulture or the bird of prey is only found in the United States. And he was showing like the different things that were only found in North and South America, which really made a lot of sense. Was how could all these animals that existed in Egyptian mythology was never in that part of land?
Hmm.
What was never
Oh,
there?
real quick, Shan Gilms has been experienced ETs here in Pennsylvania. And then he come back and said 6 years of this. The person has, I've got many pictures and videos. I run a site trying to get answers. It's crazy. What's the name of your site, Shan?
The hidden truth about everything unusual.
I'm gonna have to look that up afterwards.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
Actually,
Jody, I have a
I saw
question.
that today. I,
What's that?
what's that, Joe?
I you're-
Go
the
ahead.
name, the hidden truth about everything. I
Uh-huh.
saw something about that today.
Oh,
I thought
Oh,
that
it was
was
meant to
interesting.
be.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, it's like, yeah.
So, with all your experience in the field and everything, have you personally seen a dog man or
I
like collected something off him
I
yourself?
I saw I saw a Bigfoot and I saw a Dogman. Um, I saw a Bigfoot back in 1993 on a U.S. military base. I had 3 other soldiers that were with me, and we were about 12, maybe 15 feet away from it.
Oh, wow, that's pretty close.
Yeah,
No.
and I can describe it even to this day. He was about 7 feet, reddish brown hair. His eyes were like a blackish red color, very human face, high satchel crest, massive jaw, flat nose, muscular body, muscular body, massive chest, small waist. The legs were muscled. His arms were extremely long. And when he was moving, it was like a glide. I mean, literally, it was
Oh.
like a glide, the way he was moving. The characteristics, he was definitely male. The hair on his chest and like back on his shoulder, going back of the back of his head, was almost gone. His skin was like a really flaky, scaly looking, like mange or something, because you can see the hair loss, up on like the shoulders, and you were able to see, the muscle features of this thing. Um, but like I said, he looked extremely, extremely human, and we never said anything to anybody about this. Now, there were a lot of sightings of Bigfoot on this base, a lot of sightings, and most of the people who mentioned it got laughed at and so forth. But everybody knew there was something on it, because when you're out in the field, I mean, you saw the tracks. You saw the tracks all the time. You heard the screams. No one really wanted to go through the field. That's being honest. And I never mentioned it for, oh goodness, um, probably 10 or 15 years later. I never told anybody about that. But my Dogman sighting was, we did an investigation at Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky, which is a very wicked place. The Native Americans would not even go in to this forest. It was that wicked. And it's one of these places that once you're there, the atmosphere is so heavy on you. Yeah, I mean, you just get the most uncomfortable feeling. And there's like 3 trails that go there. You have a lower trail, middle trail, and you have like an upper trail that goes. We were on the middle trail, and we were probably a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles in on the trail. We were coming around the bend. We had lights on our head and our hats and everything. So we came around a bend, caught eye shine, which was a deer that was standing next to a bush. The deer saw us. We saw it. The deer jumped over this bush that was probably maybe 4.5, 5 feet tall. And as it jumped over, this large creature grabbed the deer. You saw this massive arm just go around the deer, the high pointed ears, the snout, the eye shine. This thing, I mean, it looked like a werewolf. I'm not kidding. I mean, he just looked right at us as he grabbed this deer, and he moved back into the shadows, and you heard this screech come from the deer. And we decided, at this point, it's time to go back. So we went back. Everybody there saw this thing. I wasn't the only one there. So, and like I said, the one thing I remember most was the arm that grabbed the deer. and the high pointed ear and the snout. We were able to see it because our lights were all shining on that area where the deer was when the deer jumped over. And what we're thinking is that it was stalking this deer as we were coming around at the same time.
Everybody
And
surprised each other.
yeah, we surprised each other. And unfortunately for the deer, he jumped in the wrong direction.
Now, when that dog man snatched up that deer, did he look back at you and growl? I'm being
No,
honest with you.
he was looking directly at us when he got that deer. Okay. And but his head, the best way to describe it, his head was kind of turned a little bit, but you were still able to see the eye shine where he was looking at us, but his head was like not directly looking at us. It was kind of over a little bit, kind of where he's watching what he's doing with the deer and kind of watching us at the same time was the best way I can describe how his head was. But there was no sound that we can think of. Like you said, there was a screech from the deer and like a grunt, but the grunt, we just don't know if it was part of the deer or if it was actually from him.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Have you noticed any kind of extraterrestrial activity while sightings with Bigfoot were recent or anything? Because we've had discussions on previous shows about Bigfoot possibly being interdimensional, and there always seems to be a UFO somewhere nearby.
Right.
When there's a
And
Bigfoot
here's
scene.
my thing. When I did UFO research, is I never believed that, and I kind of still don't believe it today, a Bigfoot UFO connection. Okay, meaning that Bigfoot is an alien, or he's a pet, or he's a convict from another planet that the aliens left here. When this is my personal opinion, when people have a Bigfoot sighting connected with a UFO sighting, I believe that the Bigfoot was possibly abducted and being released, just like a regular abductee. When they're abducted, the flash of the light, and they're back in the location and they're disoriented. And I think that's what with the Bigfoot, he was probably abducted.
What do you think, John?
I take a very paranormal view of all of this. And, when you look at Native American, I mean, there's a lot that's very paranormal. I don't know, I just, the thing that bothers me is, you got all these hunters and, it's the same thing with the UFO. You can never get your hands on it. People
Right.
see it. It's been photographed. People see it. You have Bigfoot, you have Dogman. They die, where are the bones, I don't know. And I've heard, in the woods, things get eaten up real quick and all that. My experiences, my personal experiences have all been paranormal in this field. And so I view it all as paranormal. And when I see it, in the flesh, dead or alive, then I will believe that it's more of a physical thing that doesn't morph out or dematerialize.
I agree. There's a really big supernatural or paranormal aspect to this. And because the majority of the sightings that people have are paranormal and extraterrestrial or supernatural, believe it or not, because people, they see a blue flashing light before or after. Some people have even told us that they had some type of telepathy communication with them.
Yeah.
And you have other people that sit there and talk about interdimensional, coming from another dimension. Anything's possible. I mean, I'm one of these people that I'm a real big fan of the inner Earth theory.
Yeah.
Okay. I really love reading a lot of stuff about that. And there's a really good possibility that these cryptids like the Mothman, Bigfoot, Dogman, other cryptids, these creatures could be part of an underground society of another type of environment. It's a possibility. There's something to the inner Earth theory. If the Russians, the Chinese, or the Americans, the Germans all went looking for it and believed it. So they got to be something to it. Very interesting story. And I tell you that some of the guys I served with in the Army, who I served with in Iraq, went to go work for some contract military companies. When Katrina hit, okay, they told me, these guys that I served with told me specifically that when they took the guns away from the people, had nothing to do with crime or anything like that, is that the fact that they were running into, and the U.S. military was running into them also, these reptilians type of creatures that were coming from underground because of the flooding. It flooded their area, so they were all coming up on ground, and they were running in contact with these things. And he said that these things were able, when you got in contact with them, they were able to make you literally freeze in your place and not move until they were able to move away. And he said the reason why they took the guns away from the people, because they were afraid someone was going to shoot one of these things. And if they shot one, what would the others do to the civilian population or even to military personnel? Because he said, we were told, if you get in contact with them, you back away. You let them do their thing unless they put human life in danger.
Isn't it amazing in times of crisis, the government wants to take your self-defense away? Yet it's a constitutional right, and that's the first thing that the government goes after is turn in your guns. Well, that would never happen with me. I'm telling you right now, never going to happen.
They're trying to do it now, and there's so
I know. That's how they control us. Once the guns are gone, they can do any damn thing they want to us.
Yeah, because we have a poor excuse for a military that's not willing to stand up for the Constitution.
Yeah.
And so that's my view on it.
Hey, Jody, you put together a really interesting regional map. So where are these Dogman werewolf sightings? Like, where would be where would you go in the country?
The most active parts of the country, okay, I would say, honestly, would be from Illinois going into Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, going down to West Virginia, going into Kentucky and back up.
Yeah.
That would be the most populated area I would go searching. Then I would look at from Texas into Louisiana, going up into Arkansas and Mississippi. That would be a second area. The third area I would say would be the Four Corners area, would be the third place I would go. California has quite a few sightings. Not a whole lot is coming out of the Pacific Northwest, but I would say, Four Corners, Texas, Louisiana, and then the other areas. Those are like the biggest hot spots right now to go searching.
Now down in Louisiana, sorry, John, but real quick, they're called what, Rougarous?
Rougarous, yeah.
Yeah, could it be the same?
Well, the thing of it is the same thing, but to the people of Louisiana, what they believe is if you see one or if you're bitten by one, you become Rougarou, and the only way to stop it is to kill the original one that bit you. Okay, that's their whole thing, the legend of the Rougarou. Okay, and that it's similar to like your Lon Chaney style werewolf, but in reality, it is a dog man, a werewolf type creature. Now, we were contacted by a Baton Rouge police officer. Said he was going down this dirt road down by the swamps, and he comes across this creature that's eating something in the road. And he goes, look, we have no bears in here. Okay. This thing was huge. He didn't know what it was. He ends up throwing his siren on to get its attention. And he said, this thing literally stopped what it was doing, stood up on its hind legs. He saw the tail, the head, the high pointed ears. Now his lights on it. He says this thing was like your typical werewolf from a werewolf movie. And he said it turns around, looks at him, and it darts right at his car. Now he says, I have my dash cam on filming this. It jumps on the hood of the car and starts to bust into the windshield. Okay. And just scratching up everything. And he says, I throw my car in reverse. I do almost like a 360. I throw it off the vehicle. I go down the road because I'm looking back and this thing is running after the vehicle.
Mm.
So he goes back to his station. His car's completely ripped apart. He pulls out the SD card, I guess, whatever they use for their dash cam, and takes it in, talks to his shift supervisor, says, listen, this is what's happened. You got to come out and look at my car. He shows the car to his shift supervisor. He says, I got it on film. They put it in the computer. They watch it. And he said his shift supervisor and a sergeant sitting there watching this with him, they tell him, listen, go home, take the rest of the night off, come back tomorrow. Everything would be, okay. He says he comes back and works the next day. His car is completely repaired. He talks to his shift supervisor about any idea on when he wants to do the report on what he says. And he goes, report on what? He goes, the attack. So they played dumb on everything. They destroyed all evidence that it even happened. They sat and told him if he mentions it again, he's going to have to go see a police psychiatrist.
That's a shame.
Why do they cover up this stuff? Why? What's the whole reason behind it?
Well, here's my theory. Okay, you have an apex predator. Okay, people, when you think of a monster, okay, literally think of a monster. What's the most fierce creature you can think of? Okay, it's a werewolf. Okay, people know there's Bigfoot. They know Bigfoot's not like Bigfoot in the movies where they go and rip the campers apart and all this other stuff. Okay, but this is a werewolf is the creature that goes bump in the night that bites. Okay, and everybody knows that, and it's a mythological creature that people are fantasized about. Okay, there's something about werewolves that people love and people fear. That's part of the thing there too. The second part is, let's say, okay, the president of the United States gets on TV, not Joe Biden. We're talking about another president.
The real president.
The real president gets on TV and he goes, you know what? Extraterrestrials exist. Okay. They've been visiting the planet for years. We have recovered crafts and bodies. So far they haven't been hostile to us. If they do, we'll do what's necessary to protect the planet. Okay. Well, you're going to go to bed that night. You're going to think about it. You're going to talk to your spouse about it. You're going to get up the next morning. You're going to have breakfast with your kids. You're going to take your kids to school. You're going to go to work. You got something to talk about. You're going to come home. You're going to take your kids to soccer practice or whatever. Life's going to go on because deep inside your mind, you knew they already existed. Okay. So it's not some big fear to you. Of course, you're going to have people that's going to talk about, oh, the world's ending. They're coming to take us for food. You're going to have all that crazy stuff. But you as an individual, you already know that they already exist. Because why couldn't they? We cannot be the only species out there with 11 other planets out there just for us to look at. So that was my theory on it. Okay. For the longest time. Then COVID came along and you saw how people just went bat crap crazy. Okay. They couldn't handle COVID. They couldn't handle a whole lot of things. And, society basically almost fell apart over a virus. Okay. So why say that there's a monster out there? People can't handle it. I used to thought they could before COVID, like the example I gave about if the president came on TV. I really believe people could handle it. But like after COVID, hit, people can't handle the truth.
I think if the UFO thing was disclosed like that, I think you'd see such a tremendous increase in disabilities and people having to go for counseling because they've had encounters, they've had lucid dreams. I think Obamacare would explode with people going out on disability because they had an occurrence.
Yeah. And, and look at society today on how they would be treated now. They would be in the same protection zone as the LGBTQ and transgenderism and all that other stuff. They would be protected because no, you can't make fun of them or something or not give them treatment because they were abducted.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a whole bunch of different things is why, there's certain things that need to be kept secret. Okay. Because people just can't cope with stuff.
Yeah.
Good. No, I'm just saying it's just, but when it comes to a monster, how many people would call up their buddies and go out looking for this thing?
Well, a lot would, but then also I think people go into national parks, tourism would drop like a rock.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a money thing.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. The origin, I won't say the actual origin of werewolfism was France, but France had the most cases. All the famous cases were in France. So now it made me think, the first case in 1857 was Michigan. Michigan was founded by the French, a very strong French influence there, even into Canada with the trappers. And then, you mentioned the Louisiana, the Loup-garou. Again, it's the French. So it's a two-part question. Is it just the mythology of the French in these areas that this came out? And maybe it's a misidentification, or did the Loup-garou from France come here to escape Europe because nobody knew what it was?
Well, let's look at the first part. The Beast of Chevron-Dawn. Okay, it was the most popular case in France of a alleged werewolf going around killing people. Okay, so let's look at the history here. Royalty. A lot of royalty in France, they had private zoos. Okay. So when you look at the description of the Beast of Chevron-Dawn, the description actually is very remarkable to a hyena.
Yeah.
Okay. So royalty would have had access to a hyena, in their private zoos. And royalty does not care letting their lions and tigers and stuff go out and feed on the locals. Okay. And I believe that's what happened with the Beast of Chevron-Dawn. It was actually a hyena that they let out to kill people.
Or a hybrid, or maybe a wolf hyena hybrid that mated.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
So, but the Beast of Chevron-Dawn obviously was not some type of werewolf, type creature. Okay. But when you look at, what is going on in Michigan, Louisiana with the French is, could there be some type of creature that they brought over with them? Now, I was reading something last year about the possibility of like the existence of Bigfoot in the United States. Okay. where they said the Chinese actually discovered the United States also, right around the time the Vikings did.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that the Chinese brought over Yerins with them, which is their version of Bigfoot, the abominable snowman, things like that, that they brought them over with them and let them out here because some of them could have been pets. They could have used them for trade or whatever, used them for labor, whatever. Okay. But that's how they got here. And that kind of made sense a little bit, but still you have the whole theory of them coming over from the Bering Straits, which makes a lot more sense too.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing of the possibility of these things being brought over, it's a really good idea, because you look at Louisiana with the vampires. There's a lot of legends talking about how these families brought vampires from Europe over to Louisiana. And there's a huge population in Louisiana of werewolves and vampires.
Yeah.
In two different areas, and they fight with each other. Anybody from Louisiana will sit and tell you that.
That
we have to ask our producer that.
That's what
Joedy, we're going to have to cut it now. So we have some stuff we want to catch up about our recent investigation of the Crescent. I want to thank you very much for coming on tonight.
I appreciate it.
We would love to have you back. We would love to have you back if you're willing to come.
Oh, yeah.
And how can people get a hold of you?
They can contact us through our website, which is www.NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. You can email us through there. You can look for me on Facebook, contact me there. We have, if you just type in Facebook, North American Dogman Project, all of our pages, we have, each region has their own page. A lot of different states have their own page. So you can contact anybody through there on Facebook. You can look for me directly on Facebook. My profile picture is my German Shepherd. So you can contact me through there if you want to get in contact with me.
Are you sure it's a German Shepherd and not a werewolf?
I knew that was coming. The Dogman.
Thanks for being on.
All right, buddy. You guys have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, good night.
Good night. Just hit the red X. There you go.
Uh-oh, you can't see. You can't see me.
You can't see.
Well, I see his candlelight.
Hey, this is a good show tonight.
Yeah, he's good.
A lot of things, interesting things.
Well, the one, that beast of Germantown, whatever it's called. The interesting thing was it always avoided traps. It didn't eat other animals or livestock. It killed 60 children. I don't know if that's a hyena. That thing had intelligence to it.
Hyena.
But it had intelligence. It went after humans.
Right.
But there's a lot more you can say on that whole topic,
Yeah, for some reason, we talk about the Dogman. I keep picturing Man Bear Pig from South Park. I don't know why.
But... That's funny. But Jason, tell me, how did you like Crescent?
How did I like Crescent, Sean? Well,
yes,
very cool place. It's massive. It would be great to be there for a weekend. I feel like maybe we caught a off weekend from the spirits while we were there.
That's possible.
To be honest with you, because everybody was saying that the previous few weeks before we got there, it was just off the hook, just all this activity going on, and I don't think we caught one. Wait, no, we did catch a noise. Remember, it was Mr. Jingles, the mouse, running in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Where was this location?
Crescent Sanitarium up in right near Altoona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Crescent, PA. It was really cool. You have to check it out.
Yeah.
I would definitely go back. I would like to go back. I would definitely travel lighter, without so much equipment, because there's a lot of walking.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're going to what? Bring a golf cart?
Yeah, that'd be nice. And, that's what I was talking about with the super glue with my boot earlier. Yeah. I think we weren't even there 5 minutes, and I was wheeling all my equipment in on a cart, and I gave myself a flat tire with the wheel on my car, and it ripped the sole of my boot off.
And you had to
I
put,
was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" But luckily, I had like 3 tubes of super glue in the truck. I was
but
like,
I'll
"This is
tell
gonna be
you
a
what,
long
my
ride."
experience with Crescent, I can't, before I kept saying I'm disappointed, but when I got done talking to you, last week, maybe they did because look at our situation at the Bel Air house, huh?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You know,
Well, they can see us. We can't see them. And if they have a reason for not wanting to show themselves, then that's it.
Well,
John,
they
there is a whole crap. This place, one of the buildings that we went into was where the prisoners stayed, huh, Jason? And
Oh
they
yeah,
were
it was just
huge.
ginormous. Well, the other thing too, John, is there's absolutely no electricity there,
Hmm.
like zero. So that to me would make it also more difficult for the spirits to manifest
The
because now
energy,
they
yeah.
don't have any energy to feed off of other than what they have residually, or like saying using the energy out of our equipment or us. So I feel like there was a good chance we caught an off week up there
Hmm.
for sure.
What do you think about bringing an EMP with us?
An electromagnetic pulse.
Well, that thing, that turns on and it makes all kinds of energy or something.
You talking about an EM pump?
No,
Yeah.
he wants an emergency medical EMT.
I thought we was gonna have to call 911. I was like, I hope somebody brought a stretcher for Pap here. I don't know
Oh
if he's
my
gonna make
God,
it.
dude. I cried, John. John, it was, man, I'm fat. That's all I can say is I'm fat and I'm out of shape. That
He
was
was
a
in a coma
lot of
bawling.
walking.
I can't
Dude.
make it. I'm
That
going
was a lot of
down.
walking.
I tell you, dude, best thing I've been doing. I went after I was done with my campaign for governor. I went back to playing racquetball. I played 4 days last week. It just beat me. I played yesterday. I almost dislocated my shoulder and I hurt my knee because I fell. But the cardio is so much coming back with racquetball. Best sport you could play.
I don't know if I have the energy for that. I have
I
a
don't
toddler
either.
to chase
Well,
around.
the guy I play is 54 and he's 6'3" with long arms and he's a runner. And I can't wear him out. I can't get the ball past him. These are like volleys from hell.
Augie
That's
says,
good.
did we
Good
take a
exercise.
generator? No, we didn't, but luckily they had one there
Yeah.
at Nerve Center for a little bit of electric. But, I got to be honest with you. It was interesting, the investigation, Sean, without any electricity because,
Yeah.
it really set a whole different environment. It was a nice clear night. The moon was out. And, it was just,
Right.
it was more peaceful than
It was
anything.
a beautiful moon, wasn't it? It was moon?
Yeah.
Wasn't that moon creepy?
Yeah, it was at one point. I forget what time of the night it was.
Is this place located like in the deep in the woods? Is it just like
No,
off the
right
main
off the main
road?
highway there. What
Okay.
what highway was that, Sean?
220?
Um,
I can't think of it.
I
That was
can't
my
either.
first time there, so I'm not really good with name.
I
Roads.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, you got 99, 220 runs right north and south. I go to the baseball games there in
I
Altoona.
know it was a 3.5, 4 hour drive up.
Huh.
That was a
What?
long drive.
What do you mean 3.5 hours?
Oh wait.
Where was you at?
Augie said it was on 119. Route
Sean, if that was a
119.
3-hour drive, where was you at?
I don't
Like
think
an
one-
hour. Hour and a
I don't
half.
think
Hour and a
119
half.
119 is not in Altoona though.
It's close.
Yeah.
Let me
Well,
look
you
it
know what you
up.
could do? You could put it up in your maps, type in Crescent
Crescent?
Sanitarium, and
Yeah.
it'll pop up.
Because that's not Altoona. I mean, that's
It's just
119. Yeah, runs north to Du Bois, and I'm right by 119. I'm 3 miles from it.
outside. Augie says 219. Does that
Oh,
sound
maybe
better?
219. Yeah, maybe 319.
419, 519. I don't know. All these 19s, I'm lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's somewhere up there.
All
So
right.
would you go
whatever.
back, Sean? What do you think? Would you go back here?
I would give it another shot. I would. Just to see if we get a different,
That's
If
why
they-
I think
if
I
they
would
do
go
that.
back to, like we talked about the Bel Air house,
Right.
that first weekend it was just real calm, but then the second time we went, it was like, all right, this is what's going on.
Right.
and everybody hyped it up. The crescent. It's like this is off the hook the last 3 weeks in a row and everything. And
Now,
it was really interesting. We joined up with another paranormal group, and then there was actually another whole separate paranormal group there, and we didn't see any of them. This
No.
place is so big with so many buildings. We did not see any of them unless we crossed paths like back at the nerve center, which was
Hey, John,
Yeah.
you want to
man.
go on an investigation with us?
Not really on the ghost side. It's
Oh,
funny.
come
You must be like reading my mind, because I was going to ask you guys, which piques your interest more, the ghosts, the cryptos, or the aliens, the UFOs? Because lately I've been thinking more about the crypto stuff, like this werewolves, Dogman, but it's the one of those three I wouldn't want to encounter. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of aliens. I'm not really afraid of ghosts because I know how to drive off demons. But I would not want to encounter a cryptoid, like a Bigfoot or a werewolf. And I don't go in the woods. I'm telling you, I do not have any desire to go in the woods.
Me neither. Tony.
And I tell you why it scares the crap out of me is, if you remember the Blair Witch, which wasn't a true story, but
I
what
just
is
watched that the other day.
yeah, but you know what? True. The part that, back in those years, and even with the Native Americans and the Europeans that were here, when you had a possession, or, you would exercise the spirit, where did you send it? To the woods, right? They all
Yeah.
did. The Puritans, everybody sent this thing to the woods because it was out of the village, They sent it to the woods. I think, like the Blair Witch, those things are in the woods. And the
Well,
last thing I would want is to be lost in the woods. I don't go to woods.
Well, here, come over to my house, and
Yes,
we'll
yes.
sit out back, and we'll get some surveillance cameras running, and we'll use some full spectrums.
As long
And
as you
chances
got
are you'll catch a spirit in the
That I'll
woods right
do.
next door.
that I'll do. As long as there's a bathroom and air conditioning, I'm in.
The whole world's a bathroom. You're outside.
I can see the woods. I got woods in my yard. I got 1,000 trees there,
But
Well,
to
no.
answer your question, for me,
Yeah.
obviously it would be I had firsthand experience with the paranormal. A poltergeist back in 2013, which I've always believed in ghosts, but wanted to see it to believe it, like fully. And
Yeah.
once I did, that was a game changer for me. My second one would probably be UFOs, because Sean, when we were in Gettysburg,
Yeah.
I had one or two pictures that had this weird shaped something just hanging out in the sky, like in the distance, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. Is it a possible UFO? I have no idea. I'll have to bring the picture up and show you guys one of these
Yeah,
days.
that's.
Are-
Oh, you
are any
still
of
have it? You still have it?
Yes, yeah, I still got the.
Oh, cool.
I'll have to find it.
Which
but
one
I'll,
of those three scare you, Jay, that you wouldn't want to encounter?
I'd probably. I'd probably have to agree with you on the cryptid side, like Bigfoot or Dogman, because, like, say you did encounter this
They
creature,
can kill you.
yeah, they're huge. I mean, a ghost, when I don't think a ghost is going to be able to kill you.
Yeah.
UFOs might be able to abduct you, but a lot of people claim, they get brought back.
They don't kill
But,
too many
you get
people.
Dogman or Bigfoot, they might just grab you and just break you in half,
Yeah.
or Sasquatch.
Yeah, and
or
they
whatever.
say that, garlic doesn't really work on them.
Yeah.
That, for me, it would be the cryptids, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
hold me back from going on somebody who knows what they're doing to go look for one.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I would go with Sean definitely, because I know I can outrun him, so I'll be all right.
I'll trip
Let
you.
me tell you, a quickie.
Okay.
I'll trip you first, dude.
I got a friend who wants to do a bachelor party, and he wants to do it in this Laurel Highland area here, and rent a cabin. And he wants to, and these guys are heavily, heavily armed, and they want to go out and they want to hunt Bigfoot. They want to go out in the woods and stuff. And they want me to go. And believe it or not, this is more on the political side, political friends of mine. And I said, I don't know that I want to go out in the woods And I don't even know if they drink or not, but I don't know. They're heavily
Well, if
armed.
it's a bachelor party, I'm sure it's going to be
Yeah,
some
drinking, heavily armed, out in the woods. I am not going out in the woods, whether it's them or what's out there. And it surprised me too. You watch like even Joedy and these people in the show last week. Maybe they carry a handgun. I would think Joedy has one, but I don't know. I'm afraid of bears. There's two things that scare me that are real.
That's a good
like
one.
like the Jaws and bears. I used to have dreams of being attacked by bears. But the last thing I'd want to be is in the ocean and see a shark. Man, I think I'd go into shock. And or a bear in the woods. I mean, it's like I'd go out in the woods with an AR. Or shotgun. I am not.
John Bow, yeah, just like Rambo.
Yeah,
John Bow.
Well, John Rambo. It's John Ventry.
I saw some movie. I forget what it was, but it was like these, like mid 20s folks were camping or something, and then they went back to this site from that they used to remember or something, and there was a bear that came into the campsite, and then they showed the angles from in the tent. The bear just ripping through the tent, just ripping them to shreds.
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean, those
and
things.
that's why I don't want to mess
Those
with
things are
bears either.
massive. And it's the same thing if if the werewolf and the Dogman is true. I mean, what are you going to do if you encounter the thing? It's 7 feet tall. It's a lot more athletic, let's say, and vicious than Bigfoot is. Cryptids, it interests me the most, but it's the least I want to run into.
I'd like to actually see one to fully be like, yeah, this is definitely something that's
exactly.
real.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's the way it was with the ghosts and the paranormal. Once I got the firsthand experience where it was just intense. Like there was no easing into it. Like something's moving here or there. It was just full.
It's interesting. The ghost side. I would think 10% of the population have had some sort of ghostly paranormal experience, even maybe after someone dies or noises, something in the house. But, I know so many UFO investigators never seen a UFO. I know so many Bigfoot people that, we've gone out, we've never seen one, But the ghost side, that haunting side is absolutely real because it happens a lot.
Well, I feel like the out of those three as well, this is just my opinion. I feel like anybody would have a lot better chance of catching evidence, something related more to the paranormal than they would, stumbling across Bigfoot, Dogman, UFOs. Because like you said, how many do you know? Nobody's ever, been researching for years and years and never see a thing.
Yeah.
You go ghost hunting, probably within the first 5 investigations, you're going to get something or multiple things or maybe nothing. But,
But the evidence with the crypto would be more solid evidence, you know what I mean? Like trace evidence, droppings, fur, some blood, something. UFOs, there's almost no real evidence other than, video and photo, which could be anything.
Right.
Gentlemen, I hate to break up this good show tonight, but it's time for us to depart. Any last comments, John?
No, it's a good show. I mean, what the interesting thing was? I was putting together a presentation on Dogman and werewolves 2 weeks ago, and because my YouTube channel, and I'm thinking of topics because I've done 100 episodes, and there it is, Joedy on TV, and I said, oh, well, here we go. It fell right into the research I happen to be doing right now, so it was perfect.
Awesome.
And I know him, So.
How about you, Jay?
I would just like to thank everybody for tuning in for our fabulous Torture Tuesday, which, we're just hanging on by a thread every week because there's always some gremlins messing with the electronics before we get started that nobody gets to see backstage.
And I want to say thank you for everybody who watched our show tonight, who listened in, and we'll see you next week. And on that note,
see you
happy
next
hunting.
Torture Tuesday.
See ya.
Yes, it's that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. So there's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. You've been hearing it for years now. It's the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. So this show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest, created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard, and provides advice and tips from contest judges, international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest winners, and industry professionals for writers and illustrators wanting to take their next step. So go to podcastawards.com and nominate the Writers and Illustrators of Future podcast in all 3 categories. That was education, storyteller drama, and art. And that's podcastawards.com. So take a moment and get your votes in. Time to get out and vote. All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Culture. Take a ride down the rabbit hole with Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Iampietro, where each episode brings a roundtable approach to conversations about supernatural phenomena, hidden secret societies, underground bunkers, magical conspiracies, the paranormal, cryptic creatures, aliens, ghosts, legends, and myths from around the world. Chasing Prophecy radio program dives into topics that entice the imagination and seduce the mind, some of which are taboo. Chasing Prophecy, where they discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Cultures.